All right, now that we've learned a little bit about the main teachings in Buddhism, which are primarily, just from an introductory level, the three marks of reality, right? That life is characterized by suffering, things are going through a constant state of change and impermanence, which means even we have change and impermanence to us, no permanent soul. That there are four noble truths about life. First, that life is suffering. Second, that the cause or root of suffering is desire. Third, that the way to end suffering is to end desire. And four, you can do that. You can end desire and consequently suffering by following the Eightfold Path. And then the Eightfold Path, right? These right this and right that, things like right action and right speech and right motivation and right work and right effort and right meditation and so on, right? So the entire Buddhist religion or philosophy, according to the life and teaching of Siddhartha, is that life is suffering and we can do something about it. The solution is on the inside. Now, branches of Buddhism, there's three major ones we're about to go through. They either match what I just said quite well and quite consistently, or they branch off a little bit and they add some other ideas to what we've already covered in the main teachings of Buddhism. The first major branch is called Theravada, which means something like the way of the elders. And I like that it means that because when I learn about Theravada Buddhism, it seems to me the most in line with the life and story and teachings of Siddhartha. So sometimes it's considered traditionalist Buddhism. An arhat is one who has already reached nirvana, right? The whole goal of following the Eightfold Path is to reach this state of nirvana where you don't really experience suffering anymore. You experience change, but because you've eliminated your desires and you don't wish for things to be one way or another, you can just embrace the change as it comes. You have an inner peace, this perfect bliss, regardless of what happens outside of you. That's nirvana. And this is a big difference from Hinduism, which we studied first. In Hinduism, they're also seeking kind of a release from the reincarnation cycle, moksha, because in that you experience suffering. But moksha happens after death, right? So you die, and instead of getting reincarnated, you don't. And you just experience perfect peace and oneness with Brahman. That was Hinduism. Nirvana in Buddhism, you can attain it without dying, right? You can experience it now, like the Buddha did, right? So you achieve this through detachment, right? The third noble truth was the way to end suffering is to end desire. And the best way to achieve detachment is meditation, right? So think a monk like life, right? You live in a monastery with others who are pursuing the same thing. You have a very ascetic lifestyle, trying to live off of just the most basic necessities, for the most part, avoiding luxury. It doesn't mean you can't experience any luxury at all. Remember, the Buddhist teaching was kind of a middle way, right? So not pure asceticism, like let's practically starve ourselves, but just think a simple life, a minimalistic life. And this branch of Buddhism was most common in Sri Lanka today, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. So Theravada Buddhism, the way of the elders, very much a monastic lifestyle, living a simple, minimalistic life and focusing on meditation in order to achieve nirvana. Now, what we might be more familiar with is Mahayana Buddhism, and that means big vehicle. This is a little too simplistic, but I think of this as like Chinese Buddhism, right? So Mahayana Buddhism, big vehicle. It's like we're all trying to get to nirvana together. So you can picture this branch of Buddhism as like a large ferry boat that is helping us on our way towards nirvana, enlightenment, where you no longer experience suffering. And instead of focusing on meditation and detachment, this branch of Buddhism focuses on compassion and service to others, right? So rituals, speculation. They have in this branch of Buddhism these beings called bodhisattvas. There are earthly bodhisattvas, there are heavenly bodhisattvas, and these are beings who like they've attained nirvana, but instead of staying there, they actually remain back with us in order to guide us and help us. They have compassion on us, right? So this branch of Buddhism actually doesn't seek nirvana purely on the inside, because you can get much more help on the from the outside in this understanding, right? You have these bodhisattvas who are there to help you. They stay behind, and they are compassionate for those of us who are not so close to nirvana as they are or practically were, right? So this has been influenced by Confucianism and Taoism. It's more common in China, Japan, and Korea. And we have some pictures of, I think, both heavenly bodhisattvas here. That is the bodhisattva. Hopefully my recording video will move out of the way. In the top right there, that is Guan Yin. She's like this Chinese bodhisattva. You can almost think of her as a goddess, but I don't know that that's exactly right, or they would use that term. But she's a heavenly being who can attain nirvana, but she's actually staying here to help you. This is Milofo. He's the laughing Buddha. So instead of a Buddha with like eyes closed, mouth mouth neutral, and he's just in serene meditation, this guy's smiling. And it's because he is here to help you. He's here to bless you on your way to nirvana. So nirvana in this branch of Buddhism is sometimes almost thought of as like a place, a heaven-like place where there's perfect peace and joy. All right, the third branch of Buddhism is called Vajrayana Buddhism, sometimes more simply just Tibetan Buddhism, because that's where it's largely popular. And instead of big vehicle, this means diamond vehicle. And I think that's related to the idea of a diamond being bright and flashy, almost like a lightning bolt, right? In this branch of Buddhism, enlightenment or nirvana can come like a flash of lightning all of a sudden. So maybe the Theravada Buddhists, the way of the elders, they would imagine that maybe it would take years or a lifetime of meditation to attain nirvana potentially. But in Vajrayana Buddhism, it could come as quickly as months, even a week. And when it does come, it comes like a flash of lightning. It's sudden. So again, very popular in Tibet. And the leader of this branch of Buddhism is the Dalai Lama. So that's the Dalai Lama there. And they do have reincarnation in Buddhism. I know I mentioned earlier that they don't think of a permanent soul. So what gets reincarnated if not your permanent soul? They would say something like your personality pattern. So the idea is there. Maybe it's just harder to explain. But he is a guy who has attained nirvana, and he's here to help the rest of us do it. He's the religious leader in Tibetan Buddhism. This has been influenced a little bit by shamanism with its use of things like material items, and you can almost think of them as relics. So in the top right here, again, I hope my video camera is moving. These are prayer wheels. And the idea is that as a person spins the prayer wheels, they're like creating good karma, good energy, and it blesses the Tibetan Buddhist on their way towards nirvana. So it's not the Christian view of prayer, right, where we're talking to the one true God. It's not so much communication as it's almost like good luck, right? But they wouldn't call it luck. It would be karma, right? So that's Vajrayana Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism. So three branches of Buddhism: Theravada, the way of the elders, most similar, I think, to Siddhartha Gautama's life and teaching. Mahayana Buddhism, big vehicle, much more popular in places like China, where you have these bodhisattvas who are compassionate and they help you on your way towards nirvana. Instead of focusing on meditation, it focuses on service and compassion. And then Vajrayana Buddhism, where it's back to meditation, but it can happen in a flash of lightning. And there are rituals and practices you can do, like spinning prayer wheels, to help your karma on your way to Buddhism. And the religious leader for this branch is the Dalai Lama.